Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Come out to the coast. We'll have a few laughs. Welcome to the program, ladies and gentlemen. It is time to talk some Die Hard. From 1988, John McTiernan directed, Bruce Willis starring. With me, as always, is my co-pilot, my partner in crime, Mr. Script Dr. TM. How are you doing?
Ho, ho, ho. Now I've got a machine gun. I'm doing great.
Ho, ho. What's that you said to me? Yippee-ki-yay. Motherfucker.
Always much of a Roy Rogers fan myself, yeah.
You're such a cowboy. I think you're John Wayne.
Classic.
All right. Also joining us, another partner in crime of mine on the 4K for You program, and I join him on physical media every week. Greg from FanZcene. How are you doing?
Doing good. How are you this evening? I'm excited to be here.
Hanging in there. You can't really see our background. Let me remove everybody just so everybody can see. I love that background. Since there's so many of us, I can't see it, but hey, that's all right. Also joining us tonight, I believe this is your first time on Midnight's Edge After Dark, if I'm not mistaken. If not, at least your second or third time at most. Mr. Scribe Light, how are you doing?
Doing all right, thank you. I'm happy to start discussing the prequel to Family Matters.
Yes. If you've heard our famous rant about that I'm almost convinced. Actually, it's a sequel to Family Matters.
Technically,
Yes, the kid he killed would be Urkel.
Oh,
you're forgetting Perfect Strangers.
Yeah,
that too.
It's a whole universe.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's just a Tommy Westfall kind of thing.
He killed
Okay.
Urkel. You know, that's the story he tells everybody. The kid had a gun. Now he just caught him in his daughter's room.
And
Did I do that?
His daughter wanted to shoot him first, but he was quicker on the trigger.
Exactly. She's like, "Daddy, shoot him! It's a robber." He's like, "Oh no, it's Steve. I knew it, but." But anyhow, so yeah, technically, this was so let's get into some background about Die Hard. Technically, it's a sequel of sorts, even though it's not, right? It's based on a book.
Yep.
And the book was actually a sequel story that the original film had Frank Sinatra in it. What the hell was it called now? I just lost it in my head. Shit. Nobody else knows.
No, I don't remember.
I remember there was an
Drawing a
original
blank right
title,
now.
but I don't remember what it
I
is.
just showed Script the thing here too. It's in my book down here. But anyhow, somebody in the chat will get it before I even find it. But
Let's see here.
not 0 Hour or whatever. It's the detective. It's in the detective series, but I can't remember what the title of it was. But the detective would have been the first one, I believe. With Frank Sinatra. But when they asked Frank if he wanted to return, he said, "I'm too old. Fuck off." And they changed the character to John McClane, and it became Die Hard eventually. And the story was a bit different originally. Instead of a wife, an estranged wife, it was his daughter, and his daughter was actually in on it with the bad guys. Believe it or not, in the original book, and in the watch also plays a big role in the book as well. But it's her falling to her death instead of Hans Gruber, basically. So, of course, I think it was a smart move to change that because it adds a lot more reasoning to the whole story and a happier ending. It's not such a downer. But, well, you know, that's what this show's all about, Scissors with Runs, is we kind of debate that at the end, is whether or not it's an A-rated B movie or a B-rated A movie. Guess what? Just about everything falls in that category. That's what's great.
True. You got that right.
And actually, I would actually consider this a B movie. So we might as well get that out of the way now because it is like a pot boiler. It's a little the type of novel that it's based on is not what you would consider high class, right? Like, you know, it's your typical paperback, almost pulp novel in a way.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, it was basically, my understanding is that was the foundation for the story. Like they took bits and pieces from it, but they kind of strayed away from the book and did their own thing.
Yes.
Mostly overall. Similar, I guess you'd liken it to Jaws. In that regard. And it definitely started a franchise they were not expecting to have gone as long as it did.
Yeah, Nothing Lasts Forever was the name of the original book.
Yeah. It was also very lowbrow as compared to like any kind of high-class cinema, even though it was high-class action. Very lowbrow humor, a very blue-collar kind of sensibility of the main characters. So that falls within, I think, a kind of B movie kind of territory as well.
You would have had like Sylvester Stallone or Arnold Schwarzenegger in the starring role.
Yeah, that would...
maybe you could consider it. But at this time, even though they paid Bruce a lot of fucking money to be in this movie, we'll talk about
$5 million, I think.
Actually, I think it was more than that, if I'm not mistaken, Scribe, but you could be right. It was a big, huge payday for him at that time when he wasn't even that big of a star yet. He was a star on television, but he wasn't Bruce fucking Willis yet.
Yeah, that's right.
No.
But the reason they did that, go ahead.
He was on Moonlighting, and he was far more of an animated comedic character. And then this is the first time he plays an action hero and dramatic role.
Yep.
And people fell in love with him.
Your everyday action hero man.
Yeah, the only other person I felt like at that time who would have fit this role would have been Michael Keaton. And the reason I say this is you kind of need somebody who is not your typical Sylvester Stallone, Schwarzenegger type.
Yeah.
He has to be a schlubby, nearly 40 or in his least early 30s to late 30s, somewhere in there, kind of been down, this road as far as like a detective and a cop, but never been down this road as far as dealing with anything like this.
Right.
And he's basically,
Jack
Burton.
Yeah.
Kurt Russell could have also, and that's why I brought it up.
Yeah.
Kurt Russell would have also been a perfect choice.
Yeah, but I think Bruce Willis at that time, he was far more vulnerable in the sense that since he wasn't a Stallone or a Schwarzenegger, he certainly didn't appear in the physique with his physique look like an impenetrable force. And so when you get to points, and we'll get to this obviously, but when you get to points where he's actually like wounded in the course of the movie. Right. Your sense of certainty over the character's fate wanes, where it probably wouldn't if it was Stallone or a Schwarzenegger.
Exactly, and this is what you need here. You needed that perfect, everyday, blue-collar, beer-swilling kind of guy.
Yeah, somebody you could relate to as an audience member.
Yeah, the type of guy who probably played a bunch of sports in high school and college, and now he's on the job and he doesn't exercise as much, so he's losing that shape in addition to his age, but he's still got the the power behind.
Yes, the Al Bundy of action stars.
I think
O'Neill would be a great one too.
Yeah, Ed O'Neill would have been able to pull it off. I think.
Scored 4 touchdowns.
I think Gibson suffers from the single problem as Kurt Russell, and that is they're both too pretty. Right? You can't have somebody who's too pretty in this role. Like that's where I would turn down Gibson or like Kurt Russell, because I'm like, they're just a little too, because you'd have a hard time believing that Holly could leave that behind.
Yeah, right. Like, dude's banging Goldie Hawn on a nightly basis. Yeah, you're not.
But no, Bruce, I think he's just in that right category. At that time, he wasn't known as the sex symbol yet,
right,
or anything like that. I
don't think Bruce Willis was ever really.
No, well, he was kind of got that sex symbol status when he got into the mid '90s. When he started,
when he married Demi Moore, he definitely
exactly. Yeah, when he started showing his dick and everything, and there's at least 2 or 3 movies he does. So. But no, like you're right, because that's what helps add to this. And let's get the other big debate out of the way right away too. Is it a Christmas movie? Yes. Of course, I feel like you can watch it any time of the year. It was released in the summer, but I feel it is one of those films that the argument is yes, it is, because Christmas is so integral to the plot. If you take it out, it does not quite work. I've heard everybody's excuses and exchanges on, and I don't buy it, because there's so many little things that have to do with the fact that it is Christmas that I think if you take that out of the equation, it just doesn't work anymore. What do you think, Scribe? Let's go around the board here.
Well, I think Christmas works really well because not only is it like the established setting at Nakatomi Plaza, but when the police get involved, they start having to pull people off a holiday. And same with city workers and people of that nature. And even the part where it's like, oh, we're going to be cutting off power for a couple of blocks, do it. There's greater implications, because it's not just ruining the people's Christmas in Nakatomi Plaza, it's ruining everyone in the neighborhood, because all of a sudden the power's gone out and they don't know what's happening, and that causes worry and panic, and it just escalates more and more, because then you also have the news reporter, and a crisis on Christmas is huge for ratings and huge for reputation for him, so he's got lots of motivation for doing this. If it was any other day of the week, no one would really, I mean, people would still care, but it wouldn't have as much gravity, because you're dealing with the thing where it's like people are already home, they're watching their TV sets. Now we've got a captive audience, as they're as captive as the people at Nakatomi Plaza. All these things kind of factor in to the story far more organically in a Christmas setting. It could probably work on a New Year's, could probably work on like maybe a 4th of July, but Christmas works well because there's also a sense of family and love and goodwill towards men and all that stuff that is running through here, and second chances and forgiveness, because we don't know. John McClane's there to figure out what's going on with his wife, and Christmas is a good excuse to get him there, to get him to see his kids, to maybe remind him of what he's been away from for however many months. And
not only that, to have all of these events happening at once. Yeah. It's a birthday. You have no chance of it's really slim.
I hate that argument.
Or even a Christmas, Christmas is the one event, the one time of the year where everything you just said, Script, is all happening.
Exactly. And I hate that argument when they say, well, this could happen on somebody's birthday party. No, it couldn't, because they wouldn't have shut down the whole building for a birthday party, and they wouldn't have. Why would the Hans and his terrorist group want to break in on somebody's birthday party? Christmas is the perfect time, because there's going to be less security guards, like Script said. Everybody's off for Christmas, so there's like on a skeleton crew. Yep. Yeah, so why would they choose somebody's birthday party or something like that, or Arbor Day or Earth Day or something like that to come in?
And most of the time during the summer for 4th of July, they'll have that outside of the office.
Exactly. They'll do like a barbecue or something.
But fireworks off the top of the building of Nakatomi Tower would be pretty cool too.
It could be.
Yeah. That would have been neat.
But not to get the explosion we got, but yeah.
But is that a good enough excuse to get John McClane to come all the way across the country?
No,
he's missed how many birthdays so far, and an anniversary.
It's either Christmas or a wedding or a funeral. Like those are the
Well, so the other part is too, like Script said, Christmas explains everything. Why is John McClane in town for Christmas? Why is everybody at the Nakatomi Tower at that time as a group, all the executives' Christmas party?
In one floor.
The tape at the end when he tapes it to the back of his tapes the gun to his back. I mean, it's Christmas tape. But here's the thing that most people don't realize is that really Die Hard is just an adult version of The Grinch. Because what else is what else is Hans Gruber but the Grinch? He came and he ruined Christmas.
It's true.
He ruined Christmas and he gets
came to steal.
But the other theme too is I think I might be going too deep here. You tell me, is a little bit of a statement on capitalism, because of what is Gruber's doing is sort of pure capitalism after a fashion, but we're also doing this during the most commercial time of the year at a giant tower at a business. And everybody and like Script said, with the news reporter taking advantage of it. There's all this undercurrent theme of sort of like greed and capitalism.
There was a whole era in that 80s where the Chinese were kind of taking over our industry.
Yes, gung ho.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just pointing. I was just adding to your point there.
Japanese,
oh yeah,
yeah.
I was done.
Oh no, so all those points, I agree with them 110%. There's even maybe a half a dozen more I could come up with. But the one I always love to throw out there is then, if it's not a Christmas movie, then why the fuck is Die Hard 2 take place at Christmas?
Exactly. Because they ran with it in the second one.
If anything, it works against the second movie.
Yeah.
Because we're not going to get too much into the sequel. So basically, the point is first of all, why would you transport a very important prisoner on Christmas? Secondly, why aren't the planes just going to the next goddamn airport?
Yeah, it's not like they're around. Well, the other part, to go back to Scribe said about capitalism. The idea, especially in the 80s, is that Christmas was being less about giving and more about receiving, and that was considered like the foundation of capitalism. Because remember, it's the Reagan era. Greed is good.
Yeah, you're right.
Wall Street,
Japan was taking over more. So sorry.
And the whole thing there is McClane, he's going there for selfish reasons, and then he had realized, I've got to do this not just for my wife, but for everybody else in the building. Like it's my job as a cop. And it's like that. And being a cop is supposed to be ideally a selfless act.
Well, kind of doing his job basically is how he's a good father now.
Also, there's that there's a little before, there's a little bit that class warfare thing going on too. You have the blue collar cop, his wife's in a big company. You have Gruber that's all dressed to the nines, and he's at the top of the tower. And there's, I mean, again, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I think that's why you draw the audience in. You have sort of a Joe Schmo guy, a sort of swearing Jimmy Stewart, sort of going off against the big bad guy who's in the European Eurotrash accent with the nice suit. And there's a lot of stuff going on there for just a quote unquote dumb action movie. And McTiernan is, man, that guy. He wrote my favorite movie of all time, Hunt for Red October, or directed it at least. And he did Predator. This guy is just a renaissance man when it came to different kind of action movie genres and mixing things together for more than the sum of their parts.
He just needs to stay out of prison. Yeah.
Yeah, there's that too. Well, anyway,
at least he's a hard ass for real. Like you're like, he ain't fucking around here, kids. No, you also got to remember there's one person you left out there, Scribe, that I think is very important to this mix, and that is Ellis, because he represents what Holly, like he is a challenge to Bruce's status, right? Because he represents what Holly should be with, or at least in what the normal world would view as the proper guy for her, where Bruce is not, right? He's the opposite, like, because they're complete, and that's where I argue in the second film I hate that they get back together, because I'm like, these two would never reconcile. She is too much into her career, and so is he, right? And there's no fucking way a New York cop is going to go live in California. It just ain't going to last. But either way, that's neither here nor there. But that's the thing is, Ellis
believe that they got a year out of it, and that was it.
Yeah, maybe a year. But like Ellis is another point though, like because like he's like that representation of everything that Bruce Willis not so much wishes he could be, but is afraid of Holly becoming.
Yeah,
is the best way I'm trying to put it. Yeah,
I get that. And I almost feel the same way, like with Script was talking about how he's the cop and he realizes he has to do the job to stop for, not for selfish reasons, but he's got to help. But like with the FBI agents and the other cops that come in, besides Alan, they're like complete opposite. They just want to get in there and blow up the damn building and get everybody out. So like they're like the antithesis of him, like
they
the
want
opposite.
To be the hero, yeah.
And they want to be the hero and for selfish reasons.
Bruce Willis is like, this is supposed to be my day off, pretty much.
Yeah. So yeah,
and everybody can relate to, for some strange reason, for some emergency, having to work on a day off, and it's like, son of a bitch.
Yeah. So yeah, I get that, and like with Ellis too. It's just, can we talk about how great his performance is though? Like Hart Bochner is like amazing as this character.
Such a slime, such a perfect slime.
Holly's police officer.
Hans, Booby, Bubby, let's talk.
Yeah, I mean he's terrible, but at the same time you feel kind of bad for me. I mean he makes a very very charismatic,
a likable
sleaze. Yeah, a very likable sleaze. Yeah.
And he's got the cliche cocky attitudes. Like I've had more dangerous situations in a board meeting than these guys have had on the battlefield.
Yeah.
Like, no, and I'm like, yeah, sure, buddy. Okay.
Well, he's not wrong, because really he could have almost negotiated his way through this, but he played his hand too early, right? And he gave up John too soon. And when in doing that, he made himself expendable. Like, but he wasn't like, he was the first guy to really kind of come in and start negotiating shit, because Holly finally takes over as the leader, after they kill her boss. Yeah. And at that point, Ellis was the only one who was being proactive in the situation.
Yeah, Ellis didn't cower. That's the one thing. Everybody else, even though he was a sleazy guy and he was arrogant and everything else, he actually put himself literally on the firing line trying to resolve it. Even if he was overconfident about it, he actually, he sacrificed himself, which is an admirable quality even for everything else that he was at the time.
Because really, because if he hadn't fucked up in his negotiation, he could have possibly negotiated everybody getting onto there just for John.
It's true.
And again, it may seem bad to us, but if you think about it in a situation where even John would have agreed with that, because he'd have been like, get everybody out of their fucking building. I don't care if it's just you, me, and Hans at that point. Then at least it's less of a scenario to where I got to worry about everybody else plus me kind of thing. And he knew that that Ellis had played his hand too soon too, and that's where he's like, "Shut the fuck up! You don't know me." Like
it's cop instincts. Yeah, you shut up, Ellis. You don't know what you're doing with these guys at this point.
Well, the other part too is that their plan has more to do with them keeping the hostages to their advantage than releasing them. That's the other part too.
Yeah.
So he's going in there thinking that it's just a hostage situation. And McClane, same with McClane. Everybody thinks it is, but it's really just a very elaborate heist.
Well, because that's the thing, because they want the codes or whatever from Nakatomi. He doesn't give them up. They kill him. If Ellis was smart, because I don't think he knew about the whole code situation. If he had, I can't remember if he was in the room or not when that happened. I know
he wasn't in the room.
No, nobody else was, but Nakatomi. That's right. Now, if he'd have known about that, he could have used that to his advantage. That's the difference.
The thing is, his biggest flaw was he didn't have any probing questions.
Yes. Yeah.
He went in there with an offer, which is a big mistake to do with a negotiation. You have to, I mean, you're supposed to know
when you don't know what the other guy wants. Exactly.
Yeah. You're supposed to have assets to negotiate with, but you don't present them as like, these are my assets. You find out what they want. And then you're like, you pick and choose what assets would best lean into those wants. Basically, he just went into a poker game and said, here's my 5 cards. What do you got? and then Gruber's like, I got a bullet. Bang.
Yeah. Because he was in over his head, didn't know what he was negotiating for exactly script. And at that point, he already played his hand and he didn't realize that that's, even if Ellis may not have known the codes, him to lie about it would have been enough to keep him probably
alive for a few more hours.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But moving past that, though, we get to the hostages. Of course, Alan Rickman is the most brilliant choice to play this role because you like him so much by the end of the movie. He's such a likable villain, and you almost have to have that because it would be so boring if this was, like a Gary Busey or
well, he's also a hypocrite too. Like that's the best part. He's fully aware of it. He's doing it deliberately, which is beautiful. He's like, yeah, we're gonna pretend to be terrorists. We want various things I read in the magazine people release. I don't care. We just want the money and we're gonna get away on a helicopter, or no, we're gonna pretend to get away on a helicopter. And we're just going to be driving out somewhere else. And
that's what I was saying, because like that's where Ellis recognized that these aren't your typical, terrorists. These guys are after something, and whatever it is.
All over 6 feet, they're not normal terrorists.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, not just that. Like he notices right away they're basically businessmen. I can talk to them as businessmen, and they just using guns instead of cell phones, essentially.
Mm-hmm. And I do love when like Hans is like when you're asking for his demands, he's like, I read it in a what was it, New York Times or something about the Time magazine with the prisoners that he wants released. So I really that's his hypocrisy right there. But it's just like you smile when he says it because you're like, oh, this fucking guy right here. He's like he's saying this, but he's going to do the other thing. It's a beautiful performance.
Yeah, he's self-aware of the idea that the character knows he's playing a stereotypical villain, and that's his cover in order to get everything else done. And so he plays into that, but then behind the scenes in the offices, he's not twirling his mustache, and he's got a job to do. He's going to do this, and this, but he has such a flair with his confidence. He's not like a growling, mad dog villain.
No, he saves all that shit for Robin Hood.
Yeah. Well, you heard the stories about him and trying to figure out how to play that character in that movie.
I don't blame him. I love that movie for how exceptionally
it's
weird
great.
it is.
Yeah,
but no, awesome. You guys are right. Thank you for correcting, because I thought that wasn't his name, Mr. Takagi. That's his name.
Yeah, Mr. Takagi. Yeah. But I love that like each character, like how we've talked about it, each one of these characters could have been like very caricature. Bad guy, smarmy, rich guy, cop from New York, but they're all very grounded. They're all very realistic, and they're all very like human. They have that human quality to it where you can, Hans is a bad guy, and you're like, I hate this guy, but he's so cool. And Ellis is this douchebag, hip yuppie guy, but he's like, you're still like, oh man, that dude. And then like John, it's very grounded, real, and I love that part of the film.
That's a byproduct of the fact that Bruce Willis was still shooting Moonlighting at the time, and he wasn't able to do all the days on set, so they had to rewrite parts of the script and beef up other characters to make their days and basically round out the movie, and end up being to its benefit because every character that has a speaking role in this film feels important.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even the smallest of roles. You're right.
Yeah. Like even the convenience store clerk making fun of the cop, making fun of Al. Like it's just,
Well, and all the bad guys all have personalities too. Like each one of the quote unquote terrorists.
Oh yeah, like what is it? Is it Tony or Alexander who's like super upset that his brother was? No, it's Carl. Carl
gets
Carl.
upset.
Yeah, Carl. Yeah,
he's the diehard one. Yeah, the one who invented that shit.
And am I wrong that Theo should have been the main villain of the second movie or of one of the movies? Because Theo's the one that got away. I'm like, Theo should have been the main bad guy at some point for revenge or something.
Speaking of Theo, we sadly just lost Clarence Gilead.
Yes, we did. Unfortunately,
I don't know about being the villain of the second one, but
it would have been a nice little if he was like part of the next villainous group.
Yeah.
That would have worked if that little sequel we were talking about a few shows ago, Tom. Where if it's Lucy McLean's wedding and Theo's the guy that's helping Gruber's son just kill the McLean family.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Bankrolling it.
Oh, you're thinking of you're thinking again of Theo is the guy that was the computer guy on the back.
Yeah, he's the hacker. He got away. He would probably have if he got away with anything, he got away with some money.
Well,
but didn't the guy in the limo hit him in the van?
Yeah, no, I was going to say,
he get away as far as he lived. He's one of the few guys who lived. He survived. I think he was the only survivor of the crew.
But what I think you're thinking of, Scribe, is where I said during the wedding, it would actually be the son of Hans Gruber.
No, I said that. It's Theo's bankrolling the son of Hans
Gruber.
Oh,
bankrolling him. Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Like, this guy
and the quarterback is
lives 30 years ago.
Sadly, you'd have to get a new actor now, but yeah.
I mean, the guy did return in that one. It was like the Die Hard battery commercial they did a few years ago. They brought Theo back. It was really silly, very brief little thing. But I was like, oh man, what could have been? What could have been?
Yeah.
And then you have like all the various bad guys like we talked about. Then we have the limo driver, of course. Argyle.
See, we still remember these names. Like Scribe was saying, all these characters have such imbued qualities of humanity and such distinct personalities, and they don't play again. They don't play to type. Like any character, I mean, just about any character, they don't play to type, and they have flaws, but they have redeeming qualities, and you remember them, and they were integral to the plot. You could remove Ellis from the movie completely, right? You could just cut him out of the movie, and you'd still have a cohesive narrative.
He's probably one of the few that are, him and maybe Carl are probably the two that are probably the most that you could probably take out and it wouldn't change anything. You're right. But they are so memorable that, you're right.
It's true. But, what about Agents Johnson and Johnson? So
even that shit. Well, a lot of that shit, like you could even just have that could have been chopped out too. But that's so memorable, especially the guys when they get into the prickers.
Yeah. I mean,
there's swords, guys. Like, watch out, prickers or whatever he says. Yeah.
The characters, those side characters, are so memorable because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think out of all the cast or all the characters, McLean, Holly, I want to say Carl Winslow, but I know it's not Carl Winslow.
It's Al
Powell.
Yeah, him. Those three and Argyle, I suppose, they're the only characters who care about something, who care about people over an agenda, a goal. Like Johnson and Johnson, they want to just solve the problem. Gruber wants to get the money. Everybody's focused on a thing or an objective, whereas there's only about 3, maybe 4 characters in the whole thing. The news guy, same thing. There's only 3 characters in the movie that actually care about other people in the whole process, which sets them. Ellis too, to a certain extent. I'll grant Ellis because he was trying to help things out. So about 4 characters out of everybody else. Everybody within around the periphery who's pushing the plot along. They don't care about people. People don't care, and that's the Christmas spirit, caring about people.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Ellis was doing it for multiple reasons. I'm pretty sure he felt that if he won this negotiations, he'd be betting Holly that night.
Yeah.
Exactly. As for Johnson and Johnson, I like to think of them as Johnson and Johnson, a family federal agency.
It's funner than Nom. Is that what he said? I can't remember.
Yeah,
it's just like Nom. I was in high school, you asshole.
They also kind of represented what you'd expect from an action movie. Like Johnson and Johnson were sort of like in your stereotypical action movies. They would be the protagonist.
Well, that's the thing is what you were even kind of saying, I think, Scribe, where it's like, this is a very humorous action film. Unlike a lot of those films, we had Schwarzenegger drop his one-liners here and there, but this actually had a sense of humor, much like Big Trouble in Little China. It almost has like a John Carpenter kind of movie feel to it in that sense.
It does.
Yeah. But Gruber makes the stakes high by showing that people can die instantly.
Oh,
That's
absolutely!
It's like it was like McTiernan's direction, the whole nine. I mean, it's one of those perfectly balanced movies where there's just enough humor to take the edge off, but there's still the stakes at play. There's still the ticking clock.
And the comedy elements come in, like through the cops.
It comes in naturally too.
It's exactly.
Forced. It's like what's the jokes like? I saw that they have the very expensive fake IDs. Like he could be a freaking bouncer for all we know.
Yeah, There's a lot of great one-liners.
The line's not motivated by telling the joke. The line's motivated by the fact that the cop doesn't know any of the details up there. He's trying to make have reasonable doubt
even something like, I thought you guys like donuts.
Yeah.
Right.
Just there's little elements that would normally be in any other comedy movie where if you take out the action, like that's what my point is like there is a humorous element to it that I think helps it along. And I think that's the element that brought more people to the table than a normal action movie would. Like if this was a Schwarzenegger or Stallone movie kind of thing, like in that case, like that's one of the reasons why I think my mom enjoys this movie so much. Right. It's got a great sense of humor. Sure. It is grounded. Like you said, there's a lot of serious things between Hans and the damage we see McClane take and the stakes and all those things are there, but the humor comes in at the right moments. It doesn't overshadow anything too damn much, and McClane, the way he uses his humor is, to get through the moments, as some people will sometimes do, especially if you're by yourself in a very stressful situation, you will, try to keep yourself in somewhat of a,
and its most well-known one-liner was earned. It wasn't like just a one-off, like stick around or something like Predator. It was yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker, after talking up Roy Rogers to begin with.
Yeah.
So like you earn that one-liner, and even though it's a one-liner, it wasn't. It was the punchline to a built-up, earned kind of a joke. And it was that's
well, and it
like
only works.
It's organic. It's organic humor. It sounds like something that person would say. It doesn't sound ham-handed, or should I say ham-fisted. It sounds like it's part of the universe they're building around these characters and the personalities.
Well, I wouldn't even be surprised. I don't know for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was almost improvised, because that almost feels like, like, the original script was, what do you fancy yourself a cowboy like John Wayne or whatever? And, I don't even know if the line was there or whatever, it could have been even something like, well, Pilgrim or something like that, something stupid. And, it sounds almost like Bruce Willis himself. And that's what I'm saying is it feels like it's something from Bruce Willis pulling from his own past, saying, no, I was always partial to Roy Rogers, so yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
It feels organic, like,
exactly.
Like a smart-ass attitude. So
exactly that New York attitude kind of thing. Like, fuck John Wayne, he's too California. I'm more Roy Rogers, kind of thing. Like, because that's the other thing you got going on in his head too right now, and that's the whole thing with what the Ellis represents, with what Holly's dealing with, and like I said before. Him being a good cop made him a bad father, right? Because he was absent. He wasn't there for his kids when he needed to be. And then Holly went and moved all the way across the country on his ass. And him coming to California, being forced into this position, made him do these things. His cop skills is what got him out of this, and his wits in a way too, if you think about it, because him playing cool every time he's playing cool, because that's the thing I think that it wouldn't work if it was Sly. Right, because like Sly would have this, McClane would have been too cool through the whole fucking movie.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Cool is him trying to hide his fear.
Exactly, like because that, especially that scene when Hans and him meet face to face, and that he knows he's Hans from the start. Yeah. Otherwise, why would he give him a gun full of
an empty gun?
An empty gun, right? Like, so he totally knows he's just fucking with him. And that's the thing, and just the way John does that, Sly wouldn't have played that scene the same way. And the whole movie would have been completely different. It would have been slicker, and he would have been sleeker, and he'd have been the kick-ass cop from New York cop that you don't fuck with, and all that kind of shit.
Yeah, it only works because Willis is not a mountain of muscle. He doesn't look like he doesn't look like he's invulnerable. He looks like average Joe. We go back to the Jimmy Stewart kind of thing, and especially, and again, I'm hard pressed to think of a situation in that era where you saw anything like it when he cut his feet up. and he's running around with no shoes. Like that simple thing, no shoes, and they turn it into a really major hindrance to the character, and you see the character bleed. You almost never see action heroes truly bleed or seem like they're vulnerable in that era, and that was what set that, in that one instance, that set it apart for me really well.
And that's probably why you wouldn't get a Sylvester Stallone, or even maybe even a Clint Eastwood. I don't even think he would have done that.
No.
They would have been like, I'm not running around in bare feet.
Well, he'd be like in his early 60s back then.
Still, my point being though is you're right, because every other one of these, like Sly would have been like, why can't I just get like my leg hurt or something?
That's a great impression, dude. That's great.
He got time to bleed.
The glass. I got like
Sly's excuses like, listen, you can punch me all you want in a boxing ring, but do I have to like
yeah. See, that's what I like about, I mean, I know it's may seem redundant now, but this movie was actually a game-changing action film, because like you guys said, up until that point, none of that had really been seen. None, like Arnold, Stallone, Eastwood, all them guys would not have done some of the things that happened in this. And to go back to like how you were saying, like he's showing his fears and stuff, like when he, speaking of the barefoot, he learns on the plane, you know, the guy's telling him make fists with your feet in the carpet to help relax you, and he shrugs it off like it's a joke or something, but then he gets there and he actually does it.
Son of a bitch, it works.
Yeah, it works. So yeah, it's like it really is a game changer. It, like we may have multiple, like this is just Die Hard on the bus, Speed. This is just Die Hard on something else, you know. But, but before all that, that was it was this.
In the building.
Yeah,
well, I think that's what's great about, and that's probably, you know, I think Script maybe can talk to, and maybe Scribe too, as both writers, like at how the little details is what makes. And you're right, Greg. The little details is what makes Die Hard stand up above the other action films we had before that, and influence literally almost every action film to this day in some ways. And that is just the little details of John McClane, you know, getting caught off guard. He's in a wife beater and no shoes on. You know,
yeah.
Well, you know, just little details like that. That
if you didn't know he was a cop, you would think he was a drunk trailer park guy.
Yeah, he looks like a fucking hobo running around.
I know, when he gets through the vent and how dirty his shirt gets by the end of the movie, it's just like brown.
Yeah.
Well, see, here's the thing, and I was just thinking about this because I just started reading, just as a side note, I just started reading the latest Conan novel, Blood of the Serpent, right? That just came out. Well, I think it's like the most recent or latest release of a Conan novel. And I read the first 2 chapters, and all the action that takes place in the first 2 chapters is just a couple of bar fights. But in between, you get all this world building exposition of what's going on, how these people relate to each other from one culture to another, this, that, and the other. And I started thinking about that in the last couple of minutes. I was like, this movie doesn't do world building. It does character building, and that creates the world, because the world is the interaction of these characters. And so like little things like, you know, making balls in your feet, trying to get the jet lag to go away, or like, you know, Holly's taking the maiden name versus the last name as a symbol of her separation, or Gruber being in a suit, whereas everybody else is looking like they're action stars or something. All these little things build the characters, because it's these forces colliding that make the story. It's not about LA so much, even though it's a little bit LA, but the characters representing LA or representing the East Coast. And because of those details, you have fully formed characters, which are worlds unto themselves. And then we see these things collide and interact. And that's where those details really, really matter, because that's the whole movie is character driven.
Well, look at something like, okay, let's compare it to like Rey, who has no character buildup whatsoever. We know she's an orphan on a fucking planet, and she can do everything.
Right.
Like Holly, like you just pointed out there, she takes her maiden name, or goes back to her maiden name. That, first of all, like you just said, signifies a split with John, right? So to him, that's a huge, like, you know, punch to the gut. Then the other side of it is, it's also to help further her career, because if she's not seen as married, you know,
she has more opportunity.
And it also becomes a major plot point later.
And it is a major, major plot point later. So those little things, and that's what I'm saying. Same thing with like the feet, just the little itty bitty intricate things that would normally get overlooked in any Schwarzenegger or Stallone type action. And I'm not trying to put them down, but you know, it's just the little, and these things, like I said, influenced later on, where you had every action star trying to do something like this. You literally had the Die Hard on a or in a or whatever later on down the, that's what it became, the moniker, like to where I even made the joke on Toxic Tuesdays, where if we had a movie that was obviously influenced by Die Hard, I would rate it by diehards, Like,
How many diehards? Yeah.
this gets like a 5 out of 10 diehards. And like people are like, what do you mean? Like, okay, basically Die Hard is 10 out of 10 diehards. Okay, so you compare it to that.
And anything that's Die Hard 5 is as bad as Die Hard 5.
Yes, Die Hard 5
Oh,
is
yeah.
at the end of the spectrum. Die Hard 1 is at the other end of the spectrum. Basically.
Oh man.
Oh, and Die Hard 5
Under
is so
Siege is
bad.
probably one of the first ones to come out.
I know that popped in my mind because you said Gary Busey, and he's one of the bad guy terrorists in that.
Exactly,
So
yeah.
it's like, yeah, he would not fit in Die Hard.
Also Predator 2, amazingly enough.
Yeah, true.
Gary Busey.
Oh, by the way, just real quick, best Gary Busey a monologue of all time. It's from the movie Surviving the Game. You can find this on YouTube. Look up Prince Henry Stout. He tells a story about a dog. It is the greatest. I'm not even kidding. I think it might be one of the best monologues in cinema history. You just have to watch it. Gary Busey when he was still mildly sane. I just say, just take a look if you can find it. It's
I'm
great.
thinking of the time where Gary Busey played a dog.
I'm a dog.
That's right. Goes to the dog.
I got paws and a tail. I can lick myself.
Oh,
I'll
man.
never leave the house again.
What about when he played the Ginger Dead Man? Come on.
I'm the ginger
Oh.
dead man.
Yeah, Action Com in the chat. No, I call this my birthmark. Okay, if you guys don't know that monologue, I swear to God, take a minute after the show, go look up Prince Henry Stout monologue. It's great. It's
Is
absolutely
that the
great.
movie where they're hunting people?
Yeah, it's Ice-T.
Yeah, with
And
Ice-T, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's got Ice-T. It's got F. Murray Abraham. It's got Rutger Hauer. I mean, it's an amazing cast. It's a great little action movie. I love it. I love Surviving the Game.
Have you ever killed a raccoon and drank its blood in a full moon? It's transcendent.
My favorite Gary Busey performance, Silver Bullet. Freaking, I love
Oh,
that.
yeah.
I just love Gary
Yeah.
Busey. I can listen to him just talk all day because he's crazy.
Piss
I wanna
on
see
the Indians,
Gary Busey
piss on
talk
the
to himself
Braves.
I want to see Gary Busey talk to himself in the mirror for just 90 minutes.
Well, that's
That
what
would
the
be-
funny part is, Script, is I've heard from more than one person that works in the industry that they hate. Like everybody they don't hate Gary Busey, but he is so fucking crazy. You want to avoid him all the time. He's like, if he recognizes you, you're fucked.
It's that guy when you're it's guy like when you're in the supermarket and you're like, I gotta avoid this guy. I don't like this
'cause
guy.
by the time you're leaving, you're buying his groceries and shit and taking him home because he's like, we're coming up for the weekend.
See, I would just
You got a
pretend to be
couch?
Gary Busey. Be like, yeah, I know you. Yeah, I'm you. What? And then just see how long
Shit.
you do that. And then
That's
take
why I
off.
loved that show with that guy who hung out with Gary Busey. That was hilarious. Because like I guess that wasn't too far off from the truth. Like, let's grab some of these super chats real quick. Sorry about that, guys. Action Com says, do you think Frank Sinatra could have pulled this movie off? No.
No,
No,
not
not
that
no.
time. No.
No.
You'd have been way too drunk.
Even
Yeah.
even recasting with Clint Eastwood probably wouldn't have worked either. Like, I
Yeah,
was-
no.
I think it
No.
works better on its own original accord because at that point, nobody this day. I mean, most people wouldn't even remember the Frank Sinatra movie.
No.
It is
and Bruce
so-
Willis was enough of a dark horse as far as the action genre was concerned. That adds a lot to the movie right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, Frank Sinatra would have been right possibly 20 years prior to that, maybe, because he's not like your action star guy, but yeah. Gabriel Knight says, time to settle this debate once and for all. Die Hard is a Christmas movie. To be a Christmas movie, you need at least one of the following: heavy Christmas theme, Christmas ties to the story, plot, and Christmas message. Die Hard has 2 of the 3. Actually, I'd say that's all 3 of the 3.
Yeah.
I'd say 3. Yeah.
Yeah, all 3.
Yeah.
I mean, even we get Alan's redemption story through Christmas, like a Christmas miracle, from when he tells what he did to the kid, how he's been right in events, and how he's been put in this situation. It's kind of like a redeeming Christmas miracle type
He's got his
moment.
own kid on the way, which is
Yeah,
another
his own kid on the way.
Mhm.
Signifying like the whole point is like of him like having this fear of it, I'm sure, and
Yep. I mean, that's like Christmas stuff right there. Hallmark
Child is
style.
born on Christmas Day, Christmas Day in the morning. Thank you, Gabriel, though. Yeah, I say 3, all 3 out of 3. Then Julio Scissors didn't say anything, just sent us a $10 super chat. Thank you
Julio.
for that. I like the
Thank
puppy. He's smoking. He's a smoking dog. Then we got Mr. Tickle Drunk. How you doing, Tickle Drunk? Do me a favor and share out Greg and Scribe's links if you haven't been already, because I haven't got them added to the description, but I will do that after the show, I promise. Says it pleases me that Scribbles is here, and I'm glad to have him here as well.
Yeah, Tickle Trunk's one of my constant audience members too. So thank you, Tickle Trunk.
Awesome sauce. Yeah, he's one of our trusted mods, so we love him. House of Trady says Mel Gibson versus Bruce Willis as John McClane.
Had Lethal Weapon come out at that point? I forget exactly.
The year before, yes.
Was it 89? Yeah.
87 was Lethal Weapon. 88 was Die Hard.
I think Mel Gibson would have been a good second choice if he hadn't already done Lethal Weapon.
Again, though, I think he's a little too pretty.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. He's too
maybe
built pretty.
You have a hard
different
time.
brand of crazy.
I'm sorry, I don't care how fucking good your job is. Ain't no woman leaving something like that behind. Kind of like with Kurt Russell's like, no, they're dicked. It ain't happening.
Yeah.
Bruce, you can buy as like the absentee drunken fucking cop, you know.
Especially Last Boy Scout, more so, but yeah.
Yes. I love that bit when he comes home and figures out his wife's cheating on him because the toilet seat's up. That's
great. I am a detective sometimes. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think Mel Gibson. I don't see him working. It's like a different, like how he played Murtaugh. I said almost said Murtaugh. Well, Riggs. His name was Riggs, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
How he played Riggs compared to how Bruce Willis plays McClane is like two totally different types of cops and everyday type of man that I just don't see that work. And like you said, he's way too pretty. He's got that, like, even in Lethal Weapon, he's got that, like, when he gets to the family, they just want to take him in and hug him and hold him because he's just like this broken man, but he's like the daughter's infatuated with him and everything. It doesn't work the same way with Bruce Willis. You see Bruce Willis and you're like, why is this guy with Holly? What is this? Who even are you? It's like they don't want nothing to do with him.
You're talking about men who usually, you're talking about men who usually fuck like and date like movie stars and models and that kind of shit. Like somebody on Holly's level, no way she'd be leaving New York. Just saying.
Yeah. That's what I said, because like Mel Gibson, like
put up with
everybody
that
loves him in that movie.
Basically, yes. The level of put up with shit would go up astronomically.
Yeah.
The tolerance to crazy would be in her favor.
Yeah, very true.
The tolerance for that. Thank you. That's the word I should have been using. And then Becca J says, "Yippee Kanye, motherfucker!"
Oh, no.
Oh God.
Yee. Yee. Crazy. That's what he should change his name to. Is Lethal Weapon a Christmas movie? This is a very good question. I say this is up for interpretation, but like with my argument with Die Hard, you can take Christmas out of Lethal Weapon's equation, and it does nothing to change the plot.
Yeah.
No, when in my mind, when I think of Lethal Weapon, nothing except for that scene when he's at the Christmas tree farm. It's very difficult for me to think of Christmas as being an integral part of the plot or driving the story in some meaningful way.
You're just dealing with tragedy around Christmas as opposed to a tragedy that's as a result of
it helps
exploiting Christmas.
It helps, but you don't need it, right? Like it helps because it adds to his depression. It helps because it adds to the end of the movie when they have the whole family get together. But it could have been Thanksgiving. It could have been 4th of July. That's one of the things where it could have been any of those days because nothing else has to correlate except for they have to get him to come in with the family, and be part of the family. Like that's really it. So in that respect, I have no problems with people who want to call it a Christmas movie. I'll argue with people that it is. But at the same time, if I have to not be a hypocrite and go by my standards of Die Hard, no, it technically isn't.
I call it Christmas movie adjacent.
Thank you.
It's close enough to say, okay, you want to say it's a Christmas movie? That's all right.
Yeah.
But you could say it's not a Christmas movie. Yeah, it's not a Christmas movie. It's
opens
adjacent.
With Jingle Bell Rock. It has the Christmas tree farm. It has the some of the Christmas elements to it, but it's not a part of the plot.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. And then we've got a couple more here. Thank you again, though. But this is a question. Where's my Lethal Weapon 4K box set? That's a good question. I can't believe Warner hasn't done one yet, but I think they're sitting on it for next year, right, Greg? Because we saw
the 100th anniversary
I
thing.
guarantee you.
Yeah. I think we might be getting a lot within the next year from Warner Brothers. So
and not only that, they might be sitting on it waiting for Lethal Weapon 5. Is that what they're on now with Mel Gibson directing?
Yeah.
Oh, that's going to be a hard one to watch. Not because I worry about it, it's just because Donner's not around to
the first thing it's going to say on the screen is going to be for Dick, right?
Yeah.
For Dick. That's what they called him.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, like where the fourth one ended with like all the pictures throughout.
It
all
might
the
say
years
for
and
Dick
stuff,
Donner, but yeah.
So
yeah,
it's going to be. Hopefully, Mel Gibson can bring that Dick Donner spirit to the
in memory of Dick.
Yeah.
No, we did this for Dick.
His presence was larger than expected.
I have a feeling. Here's my other prediction: is the movie will end on the last cast and crew picture from Lethal Weapon 4, where everybody is there, because Richard had a family throughout the entire 4 films. Like 90% of everybody behind the scenes and in front of the camera returned
there
every time. That was
only
main
the one
priorities.
actress. The one actress, the psychologist, she passed away years after Lethal Weapon 4.
Yeah.
Sadly, yeah. There's a couple people we've lost since then, but
still alive. Mostly everyone else is still alive. Yeah.
Or maybe they'll use, maybe they'll do a combo between 3 and 4, maybe, or something like that. They'll do a way to have because I think it'll be a lot like the end of 4, where they have the family photo album.
Yeah,
all that kind of stuff. I bet.
Do we know, is everybody coming back for this?
That was in as far as I know. Just I
Pesci and Rene Russo and
they all have to be retired by now. It's been 30 years. And
well, I think
the Bomb Squad guy who's like in 3 of the 4 movies.
From what I had heard, it's supposed to be more about. I think Riggs is now retiring. Murtaugh is way retired.
He's not. Yeah, Riggs.
At least, yeah.
But it's going to be more about, I think, Riggs' last case with Butters, Chris Rock's character, and their kids. So I have a feeling Chris Rock is going to fill in a little bit more for
Danny Glover.
Who will be there.
Yeah.
He'll still be there, but
he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, it's just he'll be in the background, fishing and shit with Joe Pesci, probably.
He'll be in the background losing his boat again and crying over
I say him and Joe Pesci will probably be fishing. There's a reason why.
I love Gone Fishing. I haven't seen that in years. That movie was so stupid.
Because there ain't no way he ain't getting Joe Pesci back, too. He'll be back because he loves that fucking character.
Yeah.
So, I guarantee you. Okay. I have fish on a hook. And then Murtaugh said it wasn't big enough. We had to throw back. Anyway, it's like, So, no, I think next year they'll gear it up with Lethal Weapon 5. And then House Atreides wants to pit Mel Gibson against Bruce Willis for Martin Riggs. This one might be a bit more interesting because I think Willis could pull it off. But I think that's just... I don't know if Willis would have been as convincing with the emotional side of it. Gibson knows how to do both.
Yeah.
It's true.
Willis is not good at doing the emotional side of things very well.
Yeah, and once again, I don't know if the family would be have been accepting of him as they are Mel Gibson, because like they see him as this like lost little puppy. I don't know if Bruce Willis could have played, like you said, the emotional side. Like, would they have saw him as that lost little puppy that they wanted to take into their family? Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, but you had the same kind of rapport with Danny Glover either. I don't think.
Yeah.
No. But Willis could do sullen very well. Emotional, maybe not so much.
But I mean, if you want a Lethal Weapon connection, Bruce Willis is in National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon 1 when they're blowing up the trailers on the beach.
I love that bit.
He wants the trailer down to the lane.
I love that so much because I played it in my head. I'm like, that would be so funny if Bruce Willis popped up right here.
You're at the wrong place.
Or I don't remember if I was like, it's just at some point they found a way for John McClane to show up. It'd been hilarious. No shit, they did. It was like, oh my god, the next trailer down, Jesus.
Sorry. Yeah, okay.
He's got his hand on his head like he's got a headache now.
Classic.
What's funny, you can actually splice that scene into Lethal Weapon 2. It would be
yeah, you can when they're coming after him. I would. Somebody's got to do that now.
Yeah,
the two worlds collided. Yeah,
it's like no, it's right after his breaking up with Holly and Ellie.
Exactly. I'm just thinking that's great.
There you go, Lethal Weapon Die Hard crossover.
Oh no, that's what he says. No problem.
Yeah, no problem.
I haven't seen Loaded Weapon in so long.
There
That's
you go.
Perfect.
Get the 4Ks of both those movies, splice in a good set 10-minute sequence inserting Bruce Willis's bit from that movie.
It's not even 10 minutes, it's like 10 seconds.
Somebody's got to do that.
Well,
somebody
like,
who's good at editing, do that.
It's like a minute or whatever with the explosion, maybe 30 seconds. But yeah. But yeah, no, like so yeah, otherwise, is there any of the cast or well, we haven't even talked about Holly yet, really, to be honest with you. I mean, we talked about her.
Oh, Bonnie Bedelia was great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another actor too I want to get to right after that. But yeah, Bonnie is the wife. I mean, you buy her as somebody who has the balls to do what she's doing and to be kind of cutthroat, but she's also sweet and sincere enough that somebody like John McClane would love her and think she'd be a good mom and all that kind of shit. So, I mean, she kind of carries both sides of what 80s women were. She's that material girl living in a material world, but she's got a good old boy. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, she's also trying to improve herself because, she's from New York, so she has a little bit of that attitude, but she's also got enough gumption to try to strike it out on her own without her husband, but not as like a women's empowerment thing, just because I have to do this for myself and I'm taking care of my kids.
No, it's more of a class thing. You're right. It's not an
Yes.
empowerment thing so much.
Exactly.
And that was what I was wondering if
moving up.
Yeah, like if there's a part that was maybe like not so much deleted, but just kind of alluded to more so like I said before, with her dropping McClane's name had less maybe to do with the breakup than it did just and her being available is just she's trying to, like you said, reestablish herself. She wants to be seen as higher class than where she comes from, right? Like she's trying to be this thing that Alice is, right? Like that's what I was saying before is like that's the fear of what she could become in Bruce Willis's eyes.
She was probably grew up in one of the boroughs of New York and has spent a long time hiding her accent, her New York dialect to just sound Californian.
Yeah, I caught on to that too, Script, and that's what I was trying to get to is like you can tell she's really kind of embarrassed about that in a way. I don't know if embarrassed is really the right word, but she's trying to rise above it in some way and act like she's not that. And that's what I think another problem between her and John's character in the film is too. And they don't really get into that too much. You don't really have to. Yeah. But
you can tell he's like comfortable in being like the New York cop in the like blue collar type guy with the blue collar type family, but you tell she's dreamed more and she's going to make it sure she gets more. And you can kind of see where like how they could have fit together as a couple, especially in that movie. It's like because she's got the balls just as much as he's got the balls. Like when she stands up to Hans and tells him, if you don't start letting these people use the bathroom and you put me in charge after you killed my boss, and
well, that's when the New York starts to come out.
Yeah, that's when it comes out.
Like you can see the difference in her at that point. Yeah.
And Tom, sorry to interrupt real quick. I think you missed a super chat from Action Com up a bit. Yeah, it's in between Christmas movie Lethal Weapon and it's about posters.
Oh, there it is. I'm so sorry about that, Action Com. What did the Die Hard posters look like? Well, it's funny you asked that because I actually have a book down here.
Yeah, it's very famous. I mean, it's a very iconic image now.
Well, the original poster that came out was just the building.
That's true. Yeah, that is true. Yeah, I was thinking of the VHS cover.
Yeah, like because as we were talking about before, Bruce Willis wasn't exactly the big action star, but they eventually took a shot from this photo shoot here for the original poster.
Yeah, there he is. Yeah,
and posted it right up against the building. So that was kind of the synonymous poster going forward for the most part. But other than that, before that it was just the Nakatomi building would be exploding and it said Die Hard.
Yeah,
and they were selling this movie on the experience more than anything. It was 70 millimeter blow ups
Yeah.
and 6-track sound and stuff, which wasn't a commonplace yet at that time, besides Star Wars and a few.
Yeah, I just saw that interview with Bruce Willis where he was talking to Oprah. It was from when it first came out, and he was like, "This is the first time they've blown this up to 70, put it up on 70 millimeters since Star Wars." So he's like, "Yeah, they have a really good faith in this movie."
Well, and the reason for that is it tested, I believe, at that time, the highest any Fox movie had tested in their test screenings, which isn't surprising with how the longevity of the film has had. So that's probably why they got behind it so hardcore in that summer, because I don't think they were planning on it being a big summer blockbuster, but it sure did become one. And of course, these are the kind of movies we're missing now, right? Like this is the bigger than John Wick was at that time. This is a huge fucking movie when it came out. Probably I don't know if it's the biggest movie of '88, but it was definitely up there.
It might be. Let's see.
I don't think it's number one. I'm trying to think. Roger Rabbit was number one. That's what
one of the greatest action movies of all time. I mean, it's like,
it's definitely, at least as far as I'm concerned, it's the greatest action movie of all time. It's actually number 7. It didn't even bust 100 million at the box office, but just about did. Only a few movies beat it out at the box office, though. And like the highest grossing film was Roger Rabbit with 156. So that ain't nothing to sneeze at. Yeah. Right. And then you had like Coming to America, Good Morning Vietnam, Big, Crocodile Dundee 2, 3 Men and a Baby before it. But it's still in the top 10 with $83 million, like by today's standards with inflation. That's nothing to sneeze at. That's definitely a better opening than The Rock's gotten.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. And I will say of all those movies, I would say it's held up better than some of those. Like
some of them, yeah.
Yeah, Who's Framed Roger Rabbit, Coming to America. Yeah, I could see those have lasted, and then like Die Hard. I think Die Hard's lasted better than Good Morning Vietnam. Not that Good Morning Vietnam isn't a good movie. It's just
but I get what you're saying. Yeah,
it's completely different.
Definitely more than Crocodile Dundee 2 or 3 Men and a Baby.
Yeah.
Big maybe the wild card in that bunch, but yeah.
It's like Big has. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It also just came out during the same years like Beetlejuice, Fish Called Wanda, Willow, Scrooge, Bull Durham, Twins, Young Guns, Great Outdoors. I mean, the list goes on. So it's not like we had a dearth of movies or anything. Child's Play.
Yeah.
There you go.
Nightmare on Elm Street 4. You were going to say something though, Greg.
No, I was going to say like Big has that thing where it's like sometimes it comes and goes. It's like there's certain points where I've seen like people are really into Big and then people forget about it and it comes back around. It's like one of those weird type movies.
Yeah, usually when people get to be reminded of how many Oscars that Tom Hanks has been nominated for.
Yeah.
Right. And then we watch Mazes and Monsters and we're just like, what?
And then we've got one from Pilgrim Media here. Says, I went to Avatar IMAX 3D. I lasted 15 minutes.
The like Avatar or the sequel?
I think it's the sequel.
Oh man, yeah. I've heard such varying things from different people. Like some people are like, and not to get too far off of Die Hard, but just the family aspect puts this above and beyond what I would expect it, and then other people are like, this is long, boring, and terrible. It's going to be one of those contentious items, I figure.
Yeah, half and half. One of them divisive movies.
Yeah.
Thank you, ActionCom, for doing the inflation. And you got to remember, this is basically U.S. because at that time they didn't have the same kind of release deal they did here as far as overseas and stuff. So.
Right.
House of Trady says, thoughts of Joel Silver didn't produce Die Hard. There's a few other producers who probably could have handled it, but it does have his stamp on it, and he's a McTiernan guy. So, yeah.
Yeah, McTiernan means more to Die Hard's result than I think Silver did, but obviously, Silver's at least part of it.
Yeah. It just feels like it's in their wheelhouse. Yeah. It was definitely their follow-up to Predator.
Oh yeah, Predator's so good too.
Speaking of which, I just found out that Predator was actually inspired by that movie with Jack Palance and Martin Landau about an alien that comes out. I think you just bought it, Tom. What was the name of that movie?
I did, and I can't think of the name of it.
Yeah, I know. From what I've just found out that movie was the blueprint for Predator. So I just found out about that. So yeah.
But yeah, so then the other character I wanted to discuss was, of course, the other quote unquote villain, William Atherton, who always plays the same kind of character.
This man has no dick.
No matter what he's in. But he is so integral to this movie. In fact, that they had to find a asinine way of bringing him back in the sequel.
It just happens to be on the same plane.
Does anybody else feel sorry for William Atherton for being typecast? I feel like he had the ability to be far more, but after Ghostbusters, you can't see him as anything other than just the redheaded prick.
Considering he has had pretty much, you could consider 3, if not more, iconic roles in that role, right? At least if there's probably more. Like, I mean, obviously, Ghostbusters, the sequel, and Biodome.
Really?
I was about to say Biodome with the mullet. Seriously.
I mean, between those, I mean, he's got like he could sign autographs at Comic-Cons till the end of his life and be fine. Real Genius. Yeah, don't forget. No, that's the other one I was trying to think of.
Oh, yeah,
Don't forget Real Genius. Right after Ghostbusters, he basically, that's kind of one of his bigger roles. But yeah.
Not nearly as standout as Ghostbusters, but
no, but he had more to do in Real Genius, is what I mean.
This is true. Yeah, this is true. Yeah.
And the thing is, like, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, well, his character in Die Hard, as Tom was saying, is integral because it puts another element of that sort of Damocles family risk ticking clock over everybody's heads, and really sort of shows the exploitation of a tragedy for someone else's gain. Everybody's got an agenda. Everybody's trying to take advantage of the McClane family's crisis in some way, shape, or form. Gruber's trying to leverage Holly against John and vice versa. And then you got the media leveraging the children and everything. And especially when Atherton goes and like starts guilting the housekeeper and everything into letting him have access.
This could be the last time these children have talked to their parents.
Exactly. It's almost manipulation. And like, again, you've only got like 4 characters in the whole movie who actually care about people in general. Everybody else is out for themselves or their own agenda. And when you see that happen, you see the force is moving, but it's also so true. Yeah. It's not like it's made up.
Which is funny because the two people like Holly and John are the ones who, before this movie starts, who are the most selfish people in the equation, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it.
For themselves, I suppose.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Needs,
so you're right. I love that you've picked up on that part of it because you're right. Because at the beginning of this movie, he is living on the other side of the country. She drug his kids all the way to the other side of the country.
Yeah, they're like having a war between themselves
and their own personal fucking selfish bullshit.
Christmas miracle. They found the meaning of Christmas by the end of it.
Exactly. Yes, sir. It's all about family, right? Exactly. Yeah, and I brought this up actually earlier, Dick Sargent, York. I don't know if you heard that. I think Michael Keaton probably would have been the only other person who would have been just as good as Bruce Willis in this role.
I think they have the same smarmy type of attitude that could have worked very well.
Well, not just that, you could believe him as a street tough,
that
New York beat cop detective kind of guy.
He's got the accent and attitude, and
he's not super sexy, and he's not like too pretty like Kurt Russell or anything like that. But
right.
Mm-hmm. But like back to William Atherton, I always heard from like all the interviews, like he's like the nicest guy in the world.
Well, you almost have to be in some of these cases. You ever notice that with like some of the biggest assholes or jerks or annoying people in movies? They always generally have that moniker about them, is that they are, because you almost have to, like Thomas Wilson's another one that I've heard great stories about. He plays Biff. Yep. Of course, everybody expects him to be like Biff. He's the complete opposite.
He's like the sweetest guy in the world.
If you can believe it, actors occasionally act against their own nature.
Yeah. That's why he's so good at these parts.
And that's the thing is, like, even like, let's go to like you and I, with Script, we talked about Nightmare on Elm Street not too long ago. That was why Robert Englund worked as Freddy. It wasn't because he's a dark person. It's because he's an actor and he knows that he can have fun with that. He's having fun with it like a Bond villain. Right.
Yes, he can explore those things because his anchor is the complete opposite of the character he's playing.
Yes,
so it is an escape. He's not something he's going to necessarily get bogged down in because it is unnatural to him. Sometimes playing against your personal type probably makes for the most strongest characters because you can observe those kind of people from the perspective of the opposite end of the spectrum.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Very therapeutic, they can observe
that in those people when they see that and they're like, and they pick up on that and they grab that. And, all good actors do, right? Even if it's not those kind of characters, but yes. And that's why he works so well, I think, in those roles, because he knows exactly what those people do because he's been annoyed probably by them his entire life. So he's just taking all that and then he's pushing it back out into these roles. And he's just one of those guys where he just wears that suit so well. It's just, he has that face, he has that voice, whatever it is about him that just, he can do it every time, and he does it so well. You love hating him. Kind of like
especially when he's right in Ghostbusters, because Peck was right.
Technically, yes, he was a dick, but he was right.
Correct. Yeah, his concerns were valid.
It's true.
Yes,
it's just so good, and it's probably why like guys like that you don't hear about have so many troubles, because like I said, it's very therapeutic for them to get out, and they know they're acting, they know what they're doing, they don't have a qualm about it. There's like some like these other guys who get like typecast in these movies and stuff get like complexes and stuff. So.
Yeah, like the whole thing that supposedly went down with Heath Ledger and the Joker, for instance.
Yeah, something like that.
That's the thing, is if and even Robert Englund kind of addressed that kind of notion in New Nightmare. It's like, asking yourself, what do you think of when you go into, if you get bogged down in the idea that this guy is a child molester and murderer, you're never going to be able to get out of that headspace. You have to play this like a Bond villain almost, right? You have to kind of just, it is theatrical, or whatever the word is, I'm looking for, that's the theatricality of it is just theater. It's right. It's that, to be or not to be thing, the Shakespearean element of it is I'm trying to
ham it up, get it out there. Yeah. Don't let it stay. Don't let it linger.
Exactly. Yeah. And when he's doing the darker stuff, that was a little darker, but you can tell he wasn't as into it then as he was later on, when he was really, really into it. And he just embodied that character, and he was allowed to just explore it. And we kind of see the same thing with Bruce Willis and these returning characters throughout these films. And I'm not as big a fan of the second film, but the third film is where I feel like the characters land again where they should have. And I think it helps, of course, you have McTiernan on board for that one.
And it's also a very Lethal Weapon too. I mean, you got the buddy cop thing going on. It is,
but I love it because that's still not something that would have worked necessarily in a Lethal Weapon movie. Like, you'd almost have to have Riggs pushed to a point and everything for the true story to work the way it should. I mean, you could repurpose it, but it would just kind of, you'd be forcing some of the arguments and shit. Unlike with this, their arguments seem genuine, right? Like the fact that they don't want to work together, but they have to work together. You have to have that element almost, it feels like. And maybe it's because Die Hard 3 was an original script before, and it wasn't a Lethal Weapon. It was called Simon Says. It was just a straightforward suspense thriller. And then they just repurposed it as a Die Hard film, and it just worked brilliantly. Of course, the second film was a repurposed book made into Die Hard as well. They just, terrorists taking over an airport, kind of thing. But then, of course, we get to the two movies that I think were actually written for Die Hard movies were Die Hard 4 and 5, and those are the worst.
Oh, they're terrible. God awful.
So I don't know if you guys want to speak a little bit about the sequels right now or not, but I know Script might.
I'm not nearly as well versed in the sequels, say for maybe it's been a long time too. I watched Die Hard not too long ago for a review on my channel. But the other ones, except for Die Hard 3, because I always remember when it opens up with Hot Town, Summer in the City, and it immediately like both sets the attitude and tells you everything you need to know about what's happening in the world, which will be an element of everybody's irritation as well as the temperature. And then just the chemistry between Samuel L. Jackson and Bruce Willis is just
and much like the first film, it's loaded up with memorable villains and a supporting cast for John. Like Script and I pointed out, the missed opportunity that was there. We should have had a TV show just based on that precinct. All those characters, minus John McClane, I would have watched that show.
That'd be cool.
I'm still not sure about Jeremy Irons as the villain, though. I never really liked the idea of Hans Gruber's brother. It could have been someone else and not been Gruber's brother. I always thought that part is that's the weakest part of the entire thing. And it's not terrible. I'm not saying it fails the movie or something, but of everything else in that movie, that one element of it being a giant revenge plot from his
but that's
the
only
brother.
thing that gets John McClane into the story.
Yeah, I guess it should have been Theo. It should have been Theo.
I guess you could have went that route, but I like that because the beauty of it is that he really doesn't give a shit about his brother. He's just using it as a smoke screen.
Yeah, kind of like how Gruber is using,
it's very much a Gruber thing.
It is a Gruber, a family tradition. Yeah.
And that's where I think it would work if you actually were, if Bruce were to ever get, better at all, if you were to talk him into some kind of actual Die Hard finale. That's where script, and I think it'd be brilliant if you had, the angry son of Hans Gruber, he killed my father, and and his daughter's having this big wedding, and the terrorists come in, and like you said, yeah, we could bring in.
And Jai Courtney fights Gruber's son, right? Because
the best part is that's the thing. Is for a wedding,
marries his daughter.
You can have most of the return characters. You can even bring back Reginald Vell Johnson and stuff like that.
I would love to see that. But I personally, 1 through 3, that's my favorite 3 Die Hards. I don't actually mind part 4 that much, but it's just so out there. And then part 5 is just horrible.
It's not the worst. Yeah, part 4, it is. It's like,
part 4 tries. I like Timothy Oliphant.
It's like if you get done watching the first 3 and you got another 2 hours to kill, fine. Because you're right.
It's got some cool stunts and stuff, but
it's saved by Timothy Oliphant basically, because otherwise Bruce Willis isn't even there. I mean, and I still say this is before he was having issues. Like a lot of people want to chalk up some of his acting to his issues. I'm like, no. This didn't start happening until recent years, guys. Like,
yeah,
we cannot forget Bruce Willis's past sins over that. Yeah. But that 5th movie, oh my god, I think I've seen it once.
No, never touched the stuff myself.
Yeah, but yeah, I definitely think that part 3 is probably the best of the sequels, and you just could never really top that first one. I kind of think maybe that personally, I think it sequeled it out way too much. I think if you could have did like part 1 and then had part 3 be the actual sequel and then left it at that, I thought that could
really love Die Hard with a Vengeance, though. I feel like it's right up there.
Yeah,
it almost
that's what I'm saying.
Reinvents the action movie again in a way.
It's like that's perfect because like you got the Christmas vibes, part 1 and all that, and then you could go directly into like Die Hard with a Vengeance, and it's in the summer now, and you can see that the wife and him didn't work out, and he's still trying to, pick up the pieces of his life, and then Hans Gruber's brother Simon comes into town in the summer. Very much, I think that could have been like the perfect.
Well, and I think McTiernan purposefully ignored Die Hard 2 because he had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
So I think
not that Die Hard 2 is a bad movie. It's just like that 3rd one is just.
Before we got Die Hard, Live Free or Die Hard, and the 5th one, Die Hard 2 was actually a movie that I felt people overrated way too often. Like I have so many fucking problems with Die Hard 2. Like the fact that you got the same stuff happening to the same guy twice on Christmas is more than enough for me to go like And there's just too many asks in the second film compared to because I love the first film is like the positions that John is put in the first movie, you feel like he has no choice. Like when he's jumping off the roof and all that shit like that. All the things that he does, it's like I have no fucking choice but this. In Die Hard 2, it's almost like he's insisting on forcing himself into the matter, even though I know he's motivated through his wife being on one of the planes, but it's like he almost puts himself into too many positions on purpose, and there's just some crazy stuff that he does that I don't think he would have done normally, and it just feels like Bruce Willis movie more than it does John McClane. But then again, after the last 2, I definitely look at Die Hard 2 differently. It definitely moved up the ranks and gotten a lot more respect out of me. But at the time, Die Hard 2 felt like this, and I could never understand why people liked it so much. I'm like, it just doesn't make any sense.
And after Die Hard 3, both the character and Bruce Willis never felt like they were ever in a vulnerable position. No. It always felt like after that he was just a superhero, and Willis's status as an action star at that point had reached Stallone 90s levels at least. I just it lost its charm, and everything felt like a cash grab after 3. So.
Well, and that's the thing is I felt like the only other movie where he feels like he's John McClane again is Die Hard with a Vengeance. And that's probably a lot of it's John McTiernan. But that movie does begin the whole, like there's a ton of shit in Die Hard with a Vengeance where like he'd be dead or him and Samuel Jackson would be
like
dead.
when they fall with the bridge rope wire thing, and it slices them, and it's just like they'd be dead.
Broken glass on your feet and bullets. That's all very literally ground level. Then you start getting into like super gymnastics off of bridges and stuff like that. Yeah, now you've crossed the line. So
yeah, and people are talking about the third act a little bit, and that's the only other thing I can understand because Tom Cruise's Nuke My Account brought it up here. They reshot that third act. If for those who haven't seen the original ending, I suggest checking it out. It's on the Blu-rays and DVDs, and I'm sure it's on YouTube. The alternate ending to me is much better than the ending we got, and I feel like they changed. I mean, I know why they changed it. They made it more Die Hard, but to me, the original ending would have been much more satisfying. I think, and it's kind of, and I like it because it's John McClane turning the tables on, now I forgot his name. Hans Gruber's brother. Simon, Jesus Christ. Yeah. Well, Simon's his moniker, but his real name was, what the hell was it?
Franz.
Yeah. Simon Franz Gruber, I think it was. Yeah. Honestly, I think you're not wrong. But anyhow, so I don't know if Script, I know you stepped away for a few minutes. We were kind of talking about the sequels.
Yeah.
And
I was listening. I had to hide Christmas gifts from friends and family for them.
Damn it.
Yeah. It's a little over a week away. So yeah,
I know.
No, it was Peter Krieger. You're right. Thank you, Cosmic Vader. That's what it was.
Peter Krieger.
Yeah. The name Peter Krieger mean anything to you? No. Should it?
Freddy Krueger's long lost brother. What?
Simon Peter Gruber was his birth name. Yeah, that thing in LA. I love how nonchalantly they do that. Yeah, that thing in LA.
Yeah, just whatever that was.
That's something people will brought that up for like a year straight for them. Because I mean, we get that in Die Hard too. People recognize them.
Yeah, they have that news reporter lady.
I had a problem. Like, yes, some people would have, but like, I hate when they play that up in the movie so much. It's like I wouldn't know what the guy looked like who, shot the guy was the terrorist, that thing that happened last year. I don't.
Well, the only reason we would know is because of all the news reporters.
Yes,
outside and what's his name doing that.
And granted, back then television was a little bit more concentrated. I'll give you that. Script, but even that still, because I was griping before you got back here about how Die Hard 2 is so unbelievable. But yeah,
it has needed a polish at least.
It has gained ground since the sequel.
Which is not good for it either, because it's like if that's the only justification for thinking it's a very good sequel to the movie, even though it's mediocre, you're not in good company then, because 4 and 5 were disappointments. I mean, 4 was PG-13 ish.
Yeah, well, it was PG-13.
Yeah, I mean they did have they had enough cursing and violence in there to be an R, but they cut it all out.
They did. Have you seen the R-cut version of it?
Not much better.
It's like, well, the R-cut version is not even really the R-cut. It's
just so he can say the F word at the end, really. That's about it.
Because they have it in the movie, but they have it drowned out by the bullet blast.
Mm-hmm.
And you must have had the widescreen VHS of Die Hard with a Vengeance, because I had the stupid full screen one, and I was pissed because the pan and scan version of that scene, you don't get to see him completely cut in half. It just barely, it whips him right off the screen so quick you can't even tell what the fuck's going on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so mad.
Yeah, you see him like get yanked off to one side of the camera, and then
you have no idea what happened.
One guy pick up some wrists, and the other one pick up some ankles.
Because I remember saying that to my dad. I'm like, because he didn't see it in theaters. We were watching it at home. I'm like, oh man, they didn't show it. He's like, what? I'm like, in the movie theater, you could see him get cut in half. He's like, well, I didn't need to see that anyway.
Best part of the movie.
Yeah, it's like the best part of the movie. So yeah, I don't know if you wanted to talk any more about the sequel script. We just wanted to give you a chance. Or did you say everything you needed to say?
Again,
really,
Die Hard with a Vengeance is it's one of the rare sequels that's right up on par with the first one, and it doesn't have to, and it's not there because it's got Hans Gruber's brother in there. It's there because it's this really intricate, like bank heist, And I like that it has puzzles. I like that they're going all over Manhattan Island to try and solve these puzzles. And
yeah, I love the puzzles. That's a neat part of it.
yeah,
It kind of reminded me of Blown Away when I saw it. I really love Blown Away with Tommy Lee Jones and Jeff Bridges from back in the day. And so
now,
when
did
I see,
that
like,
come out before or after Die Hard?
After Die Hard, I think
that's a Die Hard
3.
clone. Yeah, I was gonna say I think that is one. Yeah,
yeah, after Die Hard, before Die Hard 3. But yeah, Puzzle Bombs. As soon as I saw Die Hard 3, I was like, I mean, Die Hard 3 is great. Don't get me wrong, but I was just like, whenever I see Puzzle Bombs, I immediately think back to Blown Away.
See, but back then, Die Hard was cool enough still that it could be like, oh, you're gonna copy us? That's cute. We're gonna do it, but we're gonna do it better.
Yeah.
Next one's gonna be on a boat.
Yeah, snakes on a plane, snakes on a train.
Yeah, next one's gonna be on a plane with snakes.
No, I mean, again, I cannot tell you how awkward the room has been when I'm with executives, like when I was an assistant, and a writer comes in, they literally say it's Die Hard in a building, and you're like, that's the first Die Hard, dude.
So it's the first Die Hard, yeah.
Yeah,
We've seen that. It's called Die Hard. You just reference like it went full circle because Die Hard in a whatever location. I
think Skyscraper is the moment it became full circle there. Script.
Die Hard on a form of transportation.
It was Die Hard in a skyscraper, but he's got only one leg.
Yeah, fuck you know how Bruce Willis he stepped on glass? Fuck that. Our brother only got one leg.
Yeah, cut him off at the knee.
But I mean, you're right because it just ran its course to the point where they literally ripped it off to the point where it's literally Die Hard in a building, and you're like, yeah, it's Die Hard.
Instead of a tower, it's
got one leg.
A skyscraper.
Just a little difference. It's bigger. just a little bit bigger.
Die Hard on a pirate ship. Oh wow!
Yes!
Okay. Yeah, it's
Brilliant.
a sea galley.
Under siege.
Yippee-ki-yay, me say.
No, not an aircraft carrier, an actual pirate ship. This is the thing.
Yeah, this is actually a prequel.
Yeah, this is a prequel. This is
Blackbeard McLean is my name.
Yeah, Josiah McLean.
Was there any ever truth to that sequel prequel thing that they were going to do where
Yes, there was.
it would have been like a young John McClane and Holly, how they came to be in a case he worked on, and then it would be capped into with Bruce Willis in the future to finish it off or whatever.
Something like that. Yeah, that did actually, but it got killed during the Disney sale, I believe.
Yeah.
No.
Thank God.
Good. Yeah.
Bad idea. Bad idea.
Yeah.
It doesn't even take a writer to tell you that.
You can't prequel Die Hard because Die Hard is the prequel.
Exactly. That's where he becomes John McClane.
Exactly, because before that he was just a regular fucking Joe Schmo detective.
It's like if you
boring fucking movie in the world.
He's a cop. He's supposed to be a good guy, and he's like, "Yeah, that's what my captain keeps telling me."
Yeah.
And if he does anything like extreme, like he does in the first movie, before the first movie, then you've already negated his character.
Yeah, that's why I also hate anything that's like young Jack Ryan. I'm like, no, that's not.
It only would work for something like, it only works if it's something like Bond or Indiana Jones, right? Where you know that by the time we meet the character, they're already clearly had a ton of adventures like this.
Right. Yeah. Hunt for Red October would be another show, but Jack Ryan does not become a super sleuth before Hunt for Red October, at least. So anyway, that's another.
But I get what you're saying. Yeah, there's very few characters where you could actually. John Wick would be another one you could possibly do.
Sure, yeah, because they have an established history.
Exactly.
They're already a fully formed action figure when you see them for the first time. So knowing that they have a history that led up to this, you could certainly try to do a prequel, but not somebody who they came into their own as a matter of consequence and circumstance in the first time you see them. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and I think Ron is right from what I had heard too, is something like this. And I think it actually did have terrorists in it blowing up something or other that caused It's like, you can't fucking do that.
Yeah, you can't do it.
It makes no fucking sense. Because then he would be in Die Hard being like, this is just like the time when I was a kid.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I was a rookie on the force, and this fucking bunch of terrorists come in and blew up the power station in New York. You remember that blackout a few years back? Oh yeah, I was.
We had a shootout at Battery Park. It was crazy.
It's crazy, man.
Welcome to the party, pal. You may remember me from such catastrophes as 1997's Blackout. I'm Troy McClane.
If it happened in New York, I probably was there. You know, what's funny is how they kind of ignored 9/11 after that in Die Hard. You thought they would have, you know, because in Die with a Vengeance, they don't even bring it up, I don't think.
Oh, nobody who'd want to dwell on it, honestly.
I know, but
like, who wants to dwell on it? You want escapism in your movie, not be
No, I
reminded
get you,
Yeah.
but like just the fact of, you know,
explosions going off, yeah.
well, not just that not everything requires John McClane, even if it's in New York. You know, like, you know, but no, Die Hard on a tricycle. He was 3.
What mode of conveyance has not been used in a Die Hard clone at this point? I mean, we got
Die Hard
planes,
on a
trains. We got on a super helicopter, on a nuclear helicopter,
Or a blimp.
yeah, on
Die Hard
Elon
on a
Musk's.
blimp.
Yeah, there you go. Die Hard on a blimp. There you go. That would be like Black Sunday or something.
Full of hot air.
We're slowly crashing.
If this blimp
Die
travels
Hard on the Hindenburg.
We're
than
going
20
down.
miles an hour. We're gonna blow up.
Ooh, no, wait. We had a cruise ship. That's right. We had
At this
cruise
rate,
control.
we figure you'll hit the ground in about 3 hours, but you'll
Um,
actually ram into it.
now,
Oh,
we've
space
done a
station.
Navy ship with Under Siege. Have we done a submarine yet? Die Hard on a submarine.
I mean, the end of Hunt for Red October, sort of, but no, not explicitly. A space shuttle or a space station, maybe.
Didn't one
Oh,
play a role in one
yeah,
of the Under
Space
Siege movies? I can't remember.
Under Siege, you had
It was
this
a Navy
aircraft
vessel and then a
carrier.
train.
Yeah, it was aircraft carrier,
Yeah.
and then a train with dark
And then a train.
territory.
Yeah, they didn't
Yeah.
use one in the first movie though.
No, not a
I
sub,
don't
no.
remember. I've not watched those since they came out, so I don't think I've even seen the second one.
I like the
There's
first
no-
one, especially the cake scene. So
Oh, of course, yeah. Erica, Alana.
Well, then you had Die Hard at a hockey rink with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
there's you a good
Oh.
stream. What's Die Hard on a blah 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 is the best Die Hard on a blah blah blah.
Let me put it to you this way: there have been so many Die Hard ripoffs that there's this one
Sudden
guy who
death.
does like this channel where he just talks about genres, big movie, and then it has ripoffs. He already has like 2 parts of the Die Hard ripoffs. It's like the biggest ones, and they're like an hour a piece already. It's like he's done Jaws and some of these other ones, and they're like 1 episode off.
God, I
Die
totally
Hard, he
forgot
just
about
keeps
sudden
finding
death.
more and more and more. Terminator was the other one, and he found a bunch of ripoffs of too. And I think he did one for Aliens. If not, I'm sure that's one that he's going to do.
Oh God,
Die Hard at
would
an
t-
exercise gym. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
yeah, Gold's Gym.
This ain't working out.
Oh man.
The one place you think I'd find spare shoes and there's none around.
What a bunch of dumbbells.
Uh,
the other thing that I love
Die Hard at
man.
SeaWorld.
Die Hard at SeaWorld. There we go.
yeah, an amusement park.
Well, we already had that. Beverly Hills Cop.
Oh, that's right, too.
Yeah.
Oh,
for
kill a
free.
whale for nothing, pal.
Jesus.
Shit. I always loved the tilt-a-whirl. Not anymore. Oh, shit.
man.
No, but like that was one thing I was always surprised is that Die Hard never got like, because here's the thing, it came out in that era. It's funny because people brought up Joel Silver earlier. Joel Silver was like responsible, along with a few other producers, for making these R-rated films that for some reason they still didn't give a shit. They would put out kids' toys and crap.
Oh, yeah, those are the
That's why I
days.
love the 80s, man.
I can't
Those are
believe
days.
by Die Hard 2 they weren't doing like John McClane figures and shit like
I'm
that.
surprised we don't have any of those.
Get
Yeah.
the plane. Oh no, my plane's going down with with detachable wings. You know, like 'cause we had
Oh, Rambo had his
Top toys, we had Rambo toys, we had
Yeah,
Terminator
Rambo
toys.
cartoon. We had a
That's
Rambo
what I'm saying.
cartoon for crying out loud.
So what do you guys? That was going to get to my question. So what do you guys think? Because we had like in the 80s, it was always synonymous. They would come up with a cartoon, but they would always find some way to kidify it just a little
There
bit.
should have
Yeah.
Yes.
been a John McClane action figure where if you got his shirt, put water on his shirt, it got darker and darker and darker.
Yeah.
That would be the
That'd be
choice.
cool.
Okay, so of course, like Rambo is my okay. Rambo, for instance, he would never kill anybody necessarily, but they were like these. It was very GI Joe. Like he had an elite group that he was
Yeah.
part of, and they were fighting another elite group They were bad guys, right? So like it kind of did that. Then RoboCop, it was always the gangs, you know, and stuff like that. So they kind of kid coded it a little bit. Like I was curious what they would do with John McClane though if they did a Saturday morning cartoon, because you couldn't have terrorists, but you could have like terrifying monsters.
I think it'd be like a whole gangs type thing.
What do you guys think? Yeah, gangs. Is that what you think?
Buildings, constant buildings.
Like in the RoboCop cartoon, they took Dr. McNamara or something, and they made him into like a new bad
like a
guy,
mad scientist.
Almost. So I think in the cartoon is where Theo could be the Cobra Commander of the whole thing. And
you love Theo.
Theo got a raw deal, dude. He was so perfect as a follow-up villain that if you didn't do anything, they should have made him the main bad guy in the cartoon show. And he's got his own organization, and he makes like football puns all the time, and they're always trying to rob stuff, and McClane's always there to stop them, except he uses like, I don't know, his fists, and I don't even know what the equivalent would be. Not an actual gun, but
no, in all seriousness, I think you're right. I think it'd be like a Cobra Kai kind of organization.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And
I still can't believe Toxic Avenger got a cartoon.
Me neither.
That's a surprise ever had.
It's so good, Toxic. It made him cute.
Toxic cute. And Alien came that fucking close to getting one too. They actually had what do you call it? Proof of concept animated thing.
I have the action figures.
Yeah, the toy line is based on the show we never got.
Yeah, I've still got I still got the gorilla alien, the mantis alien, the dog alien, the bull alien. I still got those in a box somewhere, and the Bishop action figure that looks nothing like Lance Henriksen. But
Joey says it'd be Sheriff McClane.
There you go.
No, I think it'd probably be like they said here earlier. It'd be like a Cobra Kai, or not Cobra Kai,
Die Hard on
like
a ranch.
Cobra with an organization trying to take over the world, and John McClane would just be like. It would be the
terrorist group that Hans Gruber wants people released from that he read in a magazine. But
but they couldn't call them terrorists exactly though. That's the thing. They'd have to dance around that. Yeah.
Well, wasn't Cobra called a terrorist organization to try to take over the world?
Were they?
I think terrorist was in there.
They could probably get away with it then.
Yeah, and here's the one conceit in every episode. There has to be some joke about John not being able to find his shoes.
Yeah, by the time in each episode, he'd be back in his tank top and his no shoes every time.
Yeah, exactly.
Not only that, or you have it to where he leaves Holly hanging on the phone.
Yeah,
that too. Yeah.
I loved that bit in Die Hard with a Vengeance. That was good.
Yeah.
He kept leaving her hanging on the phone. Literally in that one time. Yeah. John, God damn it, John. No, I think that'd be interesting. So, all right, let's get through the rest of these super chats. Let me check if we had any member chats. If the gang has shared them with me. And I know Scripps has got to get going here soon too. And I think you guys have probably got other stuff to do as well. Let's see here. Where's the mod group? Here we go. We got Action Con. We got that one. Okay, Mr. Tickle Trunk. Has been a member for 18 months at the minimum member company level. Thank you. And I think that's it so far for member chats. So we can move into super chats. Pilgrim Media actually got nauseous from the 3D in Avatar, not the film itself. Well, that's good.
Okay.
Not that you got nauseous, but good that it was the 3D, not the film.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear you got nauseous. Action Com says, is the building a character? That's a good question.
Nakatomi Plaza?
It does kind of play an integral role.
I think it's a bit of a character. Yeah, I mean, it's the whole reason for the whole thing is like this new building that they built and the stuff, you know?
Yeah, the elevators, the floor plan. Yeah, the whole, the fact that the vault is in there and after a fashion. Yeah, sure.
And yes, they did use the term terrorist in G.I. Joe. So I think we'd have been okay.
There you go.
Yay,
I think that all changed after 9/11.
He'd just say yippee-ki-yay instead of yippee-ki-yay.
Yeah, exactly.
Mammer Jammer on TBS. I remember that.
Oh, I love it. My favorite one was in part 2 was yippee-ki-yay, Mr. Falcon.
Let's go, Brandon.
Yeah, let's go, Brandon. So yeah, Action Com. I'd say Nakatomi Plaza is definitely almost a character of sorts. Jack White says, Tom, have you had time to check out the emails? Just sent you an email with links to a couple of interesting articles. I haven't had a chance yet today, Jack, but I will try to do so at some point here between shows. This actually went a little bit longer than we had anticipated, but that's not a problem. We were having a great conversation here about the movie, I think. I've had a lot of fun. So, yeah. Jack White says, I like Die Hards 1 through 4. I can see elements in Die Hard 5 that could have worked if the sun didn't work for the CIA. You know, the other problem with Die Hard 5 was it was a script that went around for like, what, 8-10 years, something like that.
Something like that.
They kept passing on it because they're like, nah, it's just not.
They tried to get that Tears of the Sun movie to be a Die Hard film for a while.
Oh, yeah. God.
They were trying so hard to get John McClane to some other country for the longest time. It was like, we need him in UK or in Russia or in
Die Hard in Canada. It's cold outside.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like Die Hard in the CN Tower, that could work. Got the revolving restaurant at the top. The gift shop, you cannot get out of that gift shop.
Well, it was the same thing used to try to do to Axel Foley all the time. It's like the movie is called Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah.
But we need him in Sacramento.
Not Paris, France Cop. Not London Cop.
Police Academy goes to Russia.
Yeah, there's a problem.
Yeah.
Not only that, haven't they graduated yet? Jesus Christ.
They're terrible students.
It's like what we talked about, Tom, where it's like if your franchise goes to New York or space, it's on its last leg. It's out. So like when they try like McClane in Russia or
it's like when they
Axel
go to
Foley
Hawaii on all the shows and stuff. It's like Brady Bunch goes to Hawaii and all that crap. Yeah.
Nerds in Paradise.
Nerds in Paradise. They went in the second movie already. They didn't wait.
Mike Brady becomes president of the United States. I think that was one of the Brady Bunch films.
Oh, wow. I would be surprised.
Oh, Lord. And then we have Action Com again, who says, what did you guys think of the special effects set pieces, particularly the elevator explosion and the helicopter explosion? All models, no computer. Oh,
yeah.
I think
you
it was
can't
Boss.
Be practical effects.
I think it was Boss Films who did the effects for this, I'm not mistaken, who did, of course, Ghostbusters before that. And that's, they were kind of the guys who knew how to blow up the top of a building.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that helicopter flying through the city streets and everything, that was real. That was some crazy shit.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably all McTiernan.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's definitely.
Because you can tell he must have been like a Vietnam vet and shit. He loves the shit. Like he really got into that shit. So, oh yeah. But yeah, no, the model effects and shit in this are amazing. What's funny is that's the Fox Plaza before it was open. It's just like that's why it's all under construction, because it's the Fox Plaza.
Yep.
It was also cheaper for them to shoot there than anywhere else.
Yep. And the people that were in the offices were
$2 million bucks. We just shoot it in the office.
They were so pissed because they actually rented out all the other floors. So they had explosions. So then they had to have a deal where they couldn't do explosions from until after like 4 or 5 until whatever o'clock in the morning. Yeah. They constantly be firing guns or doing explosions and shit, and everybody be pissed because the whole fucking building would shake.
You sons of bitches, keep it quiet up there.
Business done, because they're like, they had like lawyer firms and shit in there. It wasn't all, movie folk. It was like all kinds of other shit in the offices. They had to rent them out to make, they only used so many floors for Fox. They didn't need the whole goddamn building.
Yeah.
Mikey J says, my problems with the last 2 Die Hard movies was that they made John too invincible compared to the last 3. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he started becoming.
And again, I said that kind of started in Die Hard with a Vengeance, especially that scene where it jumps the shark is basically when they jump the bridge. Like from that point on, it's like, okay, there's no way these guys would have lived. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Not without a broken bone or 2 at least. Jesus fucking Christ, they'd be crippled. I mean,
yeah.
Well, you have John McClane being shot out of the water tunnel.
That was enough too when he's surfing on the fucking. And again, I love this shit though. At that point, I'm all on board. To me, that's the shark will explode and nobody gives a shit moments. You get to that point where you're just like, fuck it. I know he would not live, but he's John McClane. That's why he lived.
Right.
That's why the movie's called Die Hard. Like you got to remember that too. It's like that is in the title. But no, I hear your groans, Scribe. So I understand. From the verisimilitude avenue of it, it is a bit of a far cry from the first film. Fear Sundown says, anyone read the Nothing Lasts Forever book based on its sequel to a book called The Detective? A movie starred Sinatra as did almost Die Hard. Now,
Yep.
I have not read the original book, but I read the one that Die Hard was based on years ago. And that's how I know about it being the daughter instead of the mother or the wife, and how it ended and how she was actually part of the, and I think they were just straight up like terrorists, because it was all like this like hippy dippy kind of thing almost, like kind of cult thing. So yeah. And she was actually more of the Ellis role basically in the book, which is kind of funny. But yeah. So
yeah, I don't think I've ever read them.
I don't think the book took place on Christmas. For some reason, I think the book was her birthday or something like that. Like something like that. I can't remember what it was, or he was just visiting. I'm trying to remember. Or was it Christmas? I'm trying to remember now. It has literally been like 25 years since I've read that book. It just happened to be one of those things where my library happened to have it, and I seen it one day, and I'm like, oh shit. This is the book Die Hard's based on. So I'm gonna fucking read it. Yeah. So anyhow, yeah, a lot. I think it was, I don't know. I think it was actually predated Patty Hearst, to be honest with you.
Oh, the book?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, because these books came out years ago. Because the Sinatra movie that's based on the first book came out, I want to say, what, late 60s, early 70s?
That seems about right.
I think
maybe
so.
A bit earlier, yeah.
I'm trying to remember now offhand, but yeah. And then we've got Jack White. I like Die Hards 1 through 4, and I can see elements in Die Hard. Oh, we did this one.
Yeah, you did one. Yeah.
This one we got 2. Okay.
Yep.
All right, now we're caught up. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we already did this one.
We did this one too. Yep. What did I do? I forgot to unstar these. That's what I did. But it's better to not unstar them and then to miss them. Like
exactly.
Action counts. Fear Sundown said, anyone read Nothing Lasts Forever? We got this one too. And then Die Hard versus Dread. Here we go. What's the difference? Why do they feel like two distinct voices? Oh, do you mean because of the movies compared to, well,
I almost feel like Dread is sort of Game of Death more than Die Hard.
Well, in a way, it's like it's not a terrorist organization taking over the building so much as they're already there. It's these guys are infiltrating.
Yeah.
So there's already a difference. I mean, the only similarity, I guess, would be the fact that it's a building and there's a cop involved, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's not supposed to being a mentor and observer of a trainee. So
yeah. And Dredd has a history. We already know that he's an established tough guy in a very unforgiving world. So unlike John McClane, who's coming in as Joe Schmo to start off with and has to be put in this amazing situation, Dredd at least has the pedigree to survive this. And so you know that when he gets hurt, he's really hurt. You know, when he feels like he's got his back against the wall, you know something's wrong. That's sort of the reverse of the McClane situation. But of course, you have Anderson to back him up and also be the audience's avatar, more or less, for this experience and this entire deal. So
there you go.
Yeah.
And honestly, Peppa Pig. This is not the one I want to grab. This is the one I wanted to grab. Die Hard, Hellraiser. When you talk about reappropriating scripts, these two have a very similar history.
I mean, Supernatural might be the only way you could go at this point. Die Hard in a haunted house. I mean, it might be.
What the fuck's with this box? Got fucking chains shooting everywhere.
Everybody's wearing leather.
Like I walked into a fucking gay bar.
Freaking Judas Priest up in here.
Yeah. We're not gonna take it. That'd be a hell of a crossover.
Hell of a
crossover. Your soul is mine.
That's the subtitle for the movie. Die Hard, Hellraiser. It's
First, motherfucker. She's already got half of it. Yes, is this the Blue Oyster Bar or what?
Blue Oyster.
Proctor.
I love the deep cuts here. Blue Oyster. God, I haven't heard that in forever.
I play that theme once in a while on Meat Radio. And everybody gets it too.
Yeah, exactly. All the movie nerds.
We hear there's going to be a party, Mahoney. Yeah, we want to know where it's at. Oh, all you had to do was ask. It's going to be at the Blue Oyster Bar.
Yeah.
So is there anything else anybody wants to say about Die Hard, the ultimate A-rated B movie, in my opinion, in a way, because it rose so far above everything that it was as far as its makings, let's say. I don't know, its ingredients. It had the ingredients of a Big Mac, but came out a prime rib on the other end.
Yeah. It was set out as a B movie that became an A movie off the bat. So yeah.
Anything to say to that, Script?
No, I think that's quite accurate. It was approached as a B movie and it hit so hard it became an A movie. It's a great Christmas film, not just for the action, but also for the heart that's beneath it. Highly recommend.
Yeah. And he's got he gets a machine gun for Christmas.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, he's Ralphie grown up.
Yeah, there you go. And that's another thing. Like people say, it's not a Christmas. Well, you remove Christmas, you remove heart from the film. Then the film has no heart. There's
a lot of technical aspects that fall apart too, like we said earlier. So
yeah, but I think it helps with the heart of the film too. So. And
then in the background here, I was told the first book was in '66, and the second actually came out in '79. So yes, it may have been influenced by the whole Patty Hearst incident, which happened in '74. So there you go. And I believe even the title "Nothing Lasts Forever" is referring to the watch in the story too. Kind of bit like there's a whole thing to that. Like it's all it's been. I should read it again. I should see. I'm sure they've got it on Audible or something. I should sign up for Audible again. Anyhow, we got one more super chat from Dearest, and then I think we're gonna close her down here. We got Danny Glover have played John. Yeah. You know, the other person I was thinking of while we were talking about it after the fact, he may have been a little too young at the time, but I think Wesley Snipes could have possibly pulled it off too. Somebody brought up Eddie Murphy earlier as well.
But he basically did Die Hard with Passenger 57,
pretty
right?
much.
So.
Yeah, exactly. Always been on black.
I mean, bringing up a person. It doesn't have to be a white guy for that matter.
No.
Yeah. No. In fact, actually, what was that? Sorry.
Rutger Hauer could probably have done it.
Rutger Hauer.
Oh, Rutger. Oh, man.
You know what's weird is this is the kind of movie that, and this is why I call it a B movie, because it's almost the kind of movie that Charles Bronson would have made for canon.
Yeah.
Like in some alternate universe, we have a canon version of Die Hard, and it stars Charles Bronson.
Yeah.
Jeff Bridges would have been good as John McTiernan.
Jeff Bridges would have been great.
Jeff Bridges would have been good. Yeah.
He would have been great in it, actually. You know, you're right. Between him, Michael Keaton would have been the only other two guys I think that it could have pulled off both sides of it.
I still would have liked to see Ed O'Neill. I think that would have been hilarious.
Ed O'Neill could have pulled it off.
His career could have been vastly different.
Popeye Doyle,
yeah. All right.
Gene Hackman could have done it too. Speaking of,
I don't.
He'd have been a little old at that time, but
not even that. I think Gene Hackman. It was. I think you needed someone who was, like I said before, more of a dark horse of whether or not they could pull off action. Whereas Gene Hackman was kind of established.
You're not wrong, but I mean, really, if you look at it, John McClane ain't much far removed from Popeye Doyle. Really?
No, not too far.
They're very similar, kind of.
But I'm talking about Gene Hackman as an icon at that point.
Yeah,
I don't know
at that
if you would have gotten the same.
You're right. Yes.
Yeah.
But if you'd have done that, if you'd have made this movie in say '79, right after the book came out, Gene Hackman then not too far removed from
that'd work.
The French Connection, I think it probably would. Fred Ward would have been a great one too, actually.
Fred Ward would have been.
Cool.
Anyway, Danny Glover could also play John. Also, Carl Winslow was in the Jail Guard and Ghostbusters. It's why he moved to L.A.
And after, here's another added note. After
actually moved to San Francisco and then he shot Urkel. Then he moved to LA.
He moved to LA.
I do that.
But then people were investigating him, so he moved to Seaside, where Tom Hanks is Turner and Hooch, and he's that part of
that's right. He's a cop in
that.
I fucking forgot about that.
That's right. Turner and Hooch. Good God.
Yeah.
I always forget he's a cop in that one too.
Yeah.
But all right, you guys have been a great audience, and you guys have been a great panel. Thank you so much, Scribe and Greg, for hopping in here and talking some Die Hard with us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, it's fun.
So should we tell them what next week is?
Yeah, why not? It's one people have been asking for a bit.
and it's one that people always argue about whether or not it's a Christmas movie, just like Die Hard.
Mhm.
And that is the infamous
Dick Miller classic.
Miller classic. Hey,
they put the gremlins in the machinery, and
oh man,
they got little gremlins for the watches now. They put them in the stereos. They put them in the TVs. All foreign things got gremlins in them, according to Dick Miller. That's right, the original, immortal Gremlins.
Yay!
Yes, one of my favorite films of all time. It's
Awesome,
definitely
man.
time. We've done Gremlins too, but now we're gonna do the original.
Yes.
So, yes. So please join us next week for Gremlins. Until then, take care of yourselves. Scribe Light, do you have anything to plug on your way out the door real quick?
Sure. Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern on my channel, Scribe Light. I'll be doing my weekly Sunday stream where I pick a thing and I talk about a thing. This week, I'm going to look at I know it sounds, as compared to what we just talked about here, it's not nearly as exciting, but might be interesting. A internal company webinar discussing their employee resource groups. I know this sounds completely boring, but trust me, once you know what ERGs actually are and how they work, it's kind of bizarre. So there you go. That's all I've got.
Greg?
Nothing really. Just if you want to go check out some of my videos on my channel, you can go ahead and do that. I got a couple new ones I released, and Wednesday we'll do the physical media show with Tom, and we'll have some more physical media for you. So there you go.
All right, and I'm just updating the description so you can find these guys as links in there. If not, I'm sure they're being shared in the chat already. Script Doctor, anything you got coming up anytime soon?
Nothing that I can think of. I'm not sure if we're doing anything on Nina Infinity's channel tomorrow, but just follow me over on Twitter. I finally learned how to post videos on Twitter.
Yay!
I think you are, because whatever the movie was you guys were supposed to talk about last week, I think is what you're talking about this week.
I can't remember.
I can't remember because she asked me if I'd seen it, and I don't think I still have.
It's I think I know what it is. I'm prepared for it either way.
You, I think, seen it already, but yeah. All right. And with that, Andre says, let's go to the lobby.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get